Hi, everyone. Welcome in for a Vinyasa style yoga practice this morning or afternoon, whatever time you're taking this practice. Today, I would suggest having a strap and a few blocks available. Books work as well. Uh, a tie, a pillowcase, even a t-shirt can work in lieu of a strap. I will say though, if you don't have this equipment at home, um, you really can do almost everything I'll offer with the strap without it. It will feel a little bit different in your body, but there's nothing wrong with different. So make sure you're set up. You have all the equipment. Of course, if you like to have a meditation cushion or pillow, or anything like that for meditation portions, you're very welcome to grab that. Blanket's great for the knees. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So pause if you need, and I'll meet you back on the mat. Okay, so today we're actually going to start down on the mat. So belly up, back onto the earth. Make sure if you've got your blocks with you that you have them within reach and you can go ahead and make your way there. Go ahead and slide all the way down into a shavasana today as we begin. A little bit of a different start than coming into a seat. Come all the way on down, rest to the earth. Just a few moments here to settle into the practice. You can soften the tops of your legs. Perhaps the big toe edge of your feet opens upward to the sky. Allow yourself a pause to land and to soften. You might watch the way that your breath wants to move through you naturally this morning. Perhaps there's a little message in there for you regarding how you're landing on this day. And for anyone working with Ujjayi in your practice, this could be a place where you want to begin implementing it, perhaps. And as we move into this new year ahead, I always think of the new year as like a new world of opportunity, a new blank page, just waiting to see what the story is that will be written. I wanted to offer this class today as an opportunity for us to really sit with and embrace our perceived imperfections. This can be a hard time of year. Everyone's working with resolutions and intentions, and sometimes already 1 week in, we're feeling let down or, kind of in a place of self-deception. So I'd like you to sit for these next few moments and offer yourself a lot of grace, a lot of compassion, and this knowing, this understanding that we're really each doing the very best that we can in any given moment. Robert Schuller said it's better to do something imperfectly than to do nothing flawlessly. Might we overcome any sort of fear or anxiety around imperfection, not allow that to freeze us into opting out and doing nothing instead. Better to do something imperfectly than to do nothing flawlessly. And in the next breath or two, go ahead and draw your knees up and in towards your heart. So you'll work with extensions, back extensions in today's practice, which is a beautiful field to work with this concept of really embracing our imperfections. They tend to be challenging postures for many, many, many practitioners of yoga. So I encourage you to um, move with the practice in the way that works for you, regardless of what it looks like. So the next breath or two after rolling around in both directions on your low back, you can go ahead and land the soles of your feet on the earth about hips width distance apart. And then land the backs of your arms very firmly into the earth. Notice if there's a big back bend happening. Initially, let's try and draw the pubic bone up toward your rib cage. So we begin by really engaging the core. If anyone practices Pilates, this is quite a Pilates-like movement. So let's begin here. It's like a little, almost like a little bit of a flexion of the spine. Get the core engaged. And then from that point, press into all points of both feet and rise up through your hips. So beginning with a little itty, a baby Setu Bandhasana. All right, we don't want to have a lot of weight on the neck, only lifting as high as the shoulders or the upper spine, upper thoracic spine. See if you can activate the back line or the back chain of your body. So get the back, the glutes, the hamstrings really strong. Perhaps that allows you to lift a little bit higher. And then on your exhale, roll all the way back down to the earth. So if you can articulate and land just one vertebra at a time. Good. We're going to take that same action 2 more rounds. So backs of your arms are pressing firm into the earth. Rise up through your hips. Make sure the back chain of your body is strong and active. Hamstrings, glutes, all of the back side of your body. Not weight on your neck. And then exhale to roll all the way back down. One last round. Roll on up. Begin by hovering pubic bone, hips, lower ribs, upper ribs. Make sure the neck stays free, soft. Make sure the backs of your arms are pressing firm into the earth to add a little bit more lightness. And then exhale, roll all the way back down, one vertebra at a time. And then go ahead and find one of your blocks. Again, you can do this without a block. The block is just kind of like a landmark to help support this muscular action that we're looking for, which is a press inward toward midline. I'm going to sit up to show that. It's as if we're making this action inward toward midline. Okay, so the block helps provide a landmark for that so that we can be really active, making this like adduction movement toward the midline. Okay. So once you have found that, getting that action really, really active toward midline, keep your elbows bent, lift the block up and back overhead. You're going to land your block just over the crown of your head. And this might feel like enough for you today. Check out where the elbows are. If they're floating out way out wide, you're not making that action, the squeeze into midline. So if you're working without a block, it could be palms down onto the earth, perhaps a squeeze in toward midline. You can stay right here, or perhaps with the squeeze in toward midline, you also add a lift with the hip. So just kind of shifting the Setu Bandhasana, adding on a little bit more intricate layer. Exhale, roll back down. As you roll your spine back onto the mat, you can slowly lower the block back towards your navel. Upper arms are to the earth. So 2 more rounds. Now adding in that piece with or without the block. Remember, if you're without the block, your palms can land flat to the earth, but we're not lifting. We don't want to lift way up to wheel this early in the practice, although some of you might be tempted. We're only lifting as high as the shoulders. So Setu Bandhasana in the low body, elbows squeeze in toward midline. And it's an exhale as you roll your spine down, draw your block toward your navel until you rest on the backs of your arms. Last round. Here we go. Block lifts up, squeezing in toward midline with your elbows. They say drawing in upper arms towards your ears, and then hover your hips. And then exhale it as the spine lays down. We draw your block all the way in towards your navel. Go ahead and set your block off to the side. Keep your feet wide. Take a rock of your knees from side to side. And then come on back towards center. Wrap your right knee over your left completely. So if this feels like a lot of sensation for outer hips, hang out right here. Otherwise, you're going to reach toward opposite feet and ankles with your hands. Keep your upper body resting low. This is like Gomukhasana in the lower body. a little bit of a variation because we're lying back, we're supine. So you can build in as much or as little of an edge as you like with this. If you want a little more of an edge, you draw your heels toward outer hips. A little less, heels can draw down more like toward your bum or whatever works best in your body. And then go ahead and untangle lower body. We're taking left leg over right this time. So second side, remember you can hang out right here with feet down to the earth if you're getting a good edge here. Right? Otherwise, reach for your opposite feet or ankles, soles of your feet or ankles. You can take your feet out wide. You can bring them closer to your hips. Find the point that you land where upper body can stay resting low and the edge, the sensation is contained to outer hips. Take a few breaths. And then go ahead and release. Come down onto the soles of your feet. This is a little bit of a funky one. I'll show it from lying down, but then I'm going to also come to a seat so you can see. Take your right arm up and overhead. Roll towards your right side. Left arm comes behind your lower back and you'll reach up toward the point between your shoulder blades. And then bring your right hand toward the nape of your neck. So now we're building in the Gomukhasana in the upper body. And then go ahead and slide back toward the earth until the points of your shoulders and hips land up. Your knees can stay bent or you can extend your legs out. Depends on which sensation works best. So in case you're wondering what's going on behind my back, it's left arm reaching up toward the point between the shoulder blades and right hand toward nape of the neck, or for some, perhaps fingertip to fingertip joining. Remember, we're looking for a feeling over some sort of aesthetic, right? That's that embracing of imperfection. You might have an idea in your head of how this needs to or should look. And then you also have the reality of what you're working with in your body, right? So you move with what works best for you. A lot of times embracing imperfections, it's about yeah, giving ourselves a lot of grace for where we're at in this moment and finding the beauty. We're all perfectly imperfect, every single one of us. Take a last breath here. And then roll towards your right hip. Once again, as you do that, you can release your left arm from behind you. Release your right arm out long. Leave your knees as they are. We're rolling through a spinal twist, recline twist. So arms might come out toward cactus arms or be wide from your shoulders. And then lift your knees on up. Before you do that, you can draw up through pelvic floor, a little activation through the navel. Lift your knees towards center. And we're going to take that same sequence to the second side. So as you roll to your left arm comes up and overhead. You'll be able to see it better in my body on this side. So right hand comes below low back. It can hang out here or reach up toward the space between shoulder blades. Left hand comes toward the nape of your neck, or perhaps it's a binding from fingertip to fingertip. Rest your head down, roll all the way back to the earth, and perhaps, depending on how your shoulders are communicating with you, your knees stay bent, perhaps. Perhaps you lengthen out your legs. We could take a few breaths here. Shoulder stuff, nothing like shoulder and hip shapes to really kind of get our wheels turning. There can be a lot of difference from one side to the other. And we can really quickly go into, judgment around our bodies. I love this quote from Salvador Dali. He said, to have no fear of perfection because you'll never reach it. And I go back to this often when I find myself in that mind spiral of perfectionism, which can really be quite toxic. Take another breath. And then if your legs are extended, go ahead and slide up onto the soles of your feet. We're rolling out. So left arm comes out wide from the shoulder. Roll towards your left hip. Untangle your right arm. Leave your knees as they are. And we're going right into that spinal twist, recline twist. So gaze can be to the sky or over your right fingertips this time. Knees can be stacked or maybe a little staggered if you prefer. And then with your inhale again, a little bit of a drawback with your navel. Lift your way back towards center. And then pull your knees up and in. Find either your big toe. I've still got my socks on this morning, so you might also take your palms to the soles of your feet if you find yourself in socks or if you just prefer this variation. Your knees draw down toward your upper outer ribs. And this can be held in stillness, Ananda Balasana, or if you'd like, you can add in a little bit of movement. That could even include lengthening out one leg and the other. It could mean just little bit of rolling on your back. And then go ahead and slide back towards center. You can hug your knees in. Option here to rock up and down the length of your spine to come toward a seat, maybe a few rounds, or roll down to one side and press yourself up toward a seat. So before we get into our standing poses, I'm going to take my socks off. I'm in chilly New England with you all today, so I think it's like 2 degrees outside. Hopefully you're somewhere warm and tropical. All right, come on up to a nice tall seat. Reach your right hand out from your right hip, and your left fingertips can float way up and overhead. Spin your gaze underneath your elbow. As you do that, anchor your left hip down to the earth. So you're feeling sensation up the left side body. Go ahead and lift all the way up through center. Come on over to the second side. So left hand walks out from your left hip this time, and reach your right fingertips up and overhead. You can spin your gaze if you'd like, up and under your right elbow. Reach far enough and anchor deep enough with your right hip that the sensation goes up right side ribs. Just a little lateral flexion to get going here. And all the way on back towards center. Let's take feet together at midline as in Baddha Konasana. We're going to couple that this morning. You can take blocks under your knees if you'd like. We'll couple that this morning with a little bit of neck and spine movements. So begin by drawing your chin towards your chest. You can trace it across your collarbones and lift your gaze to one side and the other. Perhaps some full neck rolls if that feels okay in your form. Both directions. And then leaving your legs in this Baddha Konasana shape. Start to take that movement for the whole length of your spine. If you'd like, you can take your hands to inner thighs just above your knees. So there's a little bit of additional sensation or edge on the inseam of your hips. So big full barrel rolls around in one direction and then the other. And go ahead and come back towards center. Help draw your knees up and in. You can swing your feet around behind you to come toward table. We're gonna first prepare a few things. So have your blocks handy. And for those that have a strap, have your strap handy. But remember, this can also be done without a strap. The action will be a little bit different. And anytime I give you the option for the strap, I will also give the strap-free variation that will be just slightly different as far as the form that it creates in your body. So those working with a strap, you want to make a little lasso at the end. So mine just has kind of like this belt, a typical belt style buckle, and I'm going to make a little loop at the end, right? We'll work with that a few times. Set that off to the side once you have it prepared, and then bring your blocks about shoulders width apart toward the front of your mat. You can press your hands on them and come on up. So your knees come down just below your hips. Keep your hips stacked up high above your knees and land your elbows onto your blocks. The elbows can also come to the earth. Press your palms together. Take a dive down between your elbows as in Anahatasana. So hips stay high. Your thumbs can come toward the base of your neck spine. They don't have to touch, right? Just looking for some edge in the underside of either arm. The little bitty extension here. Remember, you can bring your elbows to the earth instead. Perhaps your forehead lands. Take another breath. And then go ahead and extend your arms if not already there and slowly walk on up to each of your paws. You can set your blocks off to the side. And before we add on the next shape, let's take some rolls, full barrel rolls with the ribs. So roll around in one direction, roll around in the other direction. And then breathe a few cat and cow movements, flexion, extension. Your gaze can draw back toward your big toes as you round, and your gaze can draw forward as your collarbones widen when you lift your gaze. Good. Slide all the way on back toward neutral. Okay, here's where perhaps you want to work with your strap. If so, you're going to take your little lasso around your right foot, and then the tail of your strap can come forward over your shoulder for a little bit later. So we've got the tail here. Press down into your right palm and reach your left fingertips forward. Let's start there. Keep your gaze drawing down toward your mat so your neck spine is nice and neutral. And then lengthen out your right leg behind you. So we're going to start with a balancing table. Your right toes can press down toward the earth. Check in that right hip is more or less even with your left. And then option A is bend into your right knee and bend into your left elbow. This is option A. You can stay with this right here, right? Or you can reach for the tail of your strap and start to take up some slack. Perhaps your right toe points at the back and maybe you lift. And so there's this action we worked with already where we want to make sure the elbow's not coming way out wide. There's a squeeze action, which requires us to be really active in the chest and the pecs as we slide in. So you're making that action if you're lifting with the strap. Okay, so elbow is drawing in. Perhaps your gaze lifts. 3, 2, and 1. Good. Lower your right knee down. Lower your left hand down. And look for neutral spine. So you might need to move your pelvis around a little bit to come back toward neutral. Doing a lot of little bitty extensions as we develop our way into our final form. So look for something like neutral. And then go ahead and reset. If you haven't removed it already, the loop of your strap comes around your left foot this time. The tail of your strap comes over your shoulder, right shoulder if you can. And then press down into your left palm this time. Right fingertips reach forward, thumb upward toward the sky. Left leg extends back with your toes down to the earth. Remember, gaze stays to the earth for neutral neck spine. And then bend into your right elbow. Elbow does not wing out. It stays drawing in. Bend into your left knee. This could be enough sensation. Maybe there's a lift of your left foot and right fingertips. Perhaps you want to go ahead and find your strap. Start to take up some slack. Mine's got kind of a wide lasso, so it wants to slip off my foot. Remember, your elbow stays drawing in. Perhaps you work to lift your gaze. Elbow draws in, elbow draws in, elbow draws in. Maybe the gaze lifts. 3, 2, 1. Slowly lower down. Land your left knee, land your right hand. You can set your strap off to the side. And again, look to find neutral spine. So that might require a little bit of a wiggle of the pelvis. And then go ahead and rest your hips back towards your heels. You are welcome to sit up onto a block or two. We'll work toward Supta Virasana, or in Indian we call this one saddle, but we're not going to hold it for several minutes. So I will land down between my heels. Some folks like to land right on their heels and begin to lean back. So toward palms could be quite enough for you today. Some might want to come toward forearms. Some might want to come all the way down toward the earth, perhaps even with arms up overhead. Right? You gauge the sensation that works for your form without attachment to some kind of aesthetic ideal or perfect expression. It doesn't exist. And take 2 more breaths. And with your next breath, if you're all the way to the earth, extend your arms alongside your ribs. We begin by tucking the chin, roll up toward elbows, forearms for those that are there. The next stage is pressing up into your palms. And then lean your weight forward and find neutral spine again. So that could require a little wiggling of the pelvis. Tuck your 10 toes under, reach your hips high and back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. It's our first down dog of the practice. So maybe a little wiggle out would work well. And then leave your left palm grounded. Reach your right hand back to connect anywhere from hip to heel, right? So right hand slides to the outer edge of your left leg in a nice deep twist. Your head can hang heavy, maybe a little yes or no nod. And then take it all the way back. Right palm lands, reset at center, downward facing dog, and your left hand comes across midline. So perhaps at hip or maybe all the way down towards your heel. Nice big deep twist. Let your head hang down heavy. And then all the way back towards center. Good. Let's all roll weight forward and release all the way down to the earth. So that on this first time, let's all do knees and then chest and then chin. Elbows stay tucked in. Slide your heart forward, untuck your toes. We're coming all the way down to the earth. And then roll your upper shoulders back for a baby cobra. Exhale your forehead to the earth. 2 more rounds just like that. And inhale where your upper arm bones drag down toward your hip crests. And then exhale back to the earth. Last one. And all the way down. Good. This time, press up through table. Tuck your toes under. Reach your hips high and back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Just passing through. It's a step up 1 footprint at a time, all the way up to the tippy top of your mat where you find Uttanasana, forward fold. We don't want to linger here too long since we're working with extensions today. So halfway lift to shins or your blocks. Exhale back to your fold. And then inhale. Let's come on up either wide wings or with hands at prayer. Uttita Tadasana. Breathe your palms together to heart center. Samasthitihi. This is a great spot to land and reconnect with intention. So as you come to the top edge of your mat, tuning in with your breath, tuning in with your form, tuning into any mind patterns that want to, kind of convince you of your imperfections. And can you learn to embrace those and honor them for all that they teach us? And in standing, let's come to Shepana Mudra. This is a great gesture to use, in fact, when the mind murk of imperfection really gets the best of you. So Shepana, we're going to point the index finger and interlace all the rest of the fingers at center. And then inhale, fingertips upward toward the sky, but bend at your elbows. Look out for those wide elbow wings, right? So the thumbs come toward the base of your neck spine, elbows stay tucked in. And it's a standing back bend, but only as far as you feel comfortable. So it could be a little itty bitty lift of your heart. Some might be bending all the way down, like the tips of your fingers want to touch your sacrum. Perhaps you feel steady and balanced. You can lift your gaze. And then lift it all the way back to center. Shepana points, index fingers point upward toward the sky. Find length in your side body. And then exhale to hinge forward. Come all the way down to the blocks or to the earth, Uttanasana. Lift it halfway up, neutral spine. And then exhale, root your palms, step all the way back into plank. I'm going to give myself a little more space here. Okay, all the way back to plank. And then if you are building chaturanga into your practice, perhaps you do a first round with knees down or right to the floating knees expression. We'll all lift to either a high cobra, so atop the thighs, or hovering your knees to upward facing dog. Keep your gaze straight ahead. Then tuck your toes, roll up and over your toes, Adho Mukha Svanasana. 3 breaths. Lift your gaze forward. Step your right foot all the way up and through both hands. And then I'll invite you to land your knee down, cushion it if you'd like, to reset. Again, optional with your strap. So I will take the strap this time over my foot and all the way up toward my thigh. So the lasso of the strap is above, or is above rather, my left knee. And then I'm going to take the strap over my shoulder. So similar to what we did from that tiger variation down on the ground. And then go ahead and tuck your toes under, cover your back knee, and reach your 10 fingers high to the sky. So we'll begin in Ashta Chandrasana, a crescent warrior. And the back heel is afloat. Let's drop into the psoas. We want to really get sensation across the top of the left hip. So we keep the arms active, elbow squeezing in toward midline, drop the hips low, drop the hips low, and drop the hips low, even though the knee stays high. Then go ahead and lift all the way back towards something more neutral for the back leg. Find the edges of your strap if working without the strap. I'll show you what that will look like. But find the tail of your strap. Reach your arms up and overhead, and then start to walk your hands down the strap. You'll notice as you walk your hands down the strap, it'll help you lift on your upper thigh. Perhaps you sink, perhaps you lift your heart. So without the strap, same action. It looks like this. You can perhaps find Shepana Mudra again, bend at your elbows, and it looks like this, right? The strap is nice because it helps support your upper thigh as you sink a little bit deeper. Take another breath. And then go ahead and hover towards something more like neutral. You can extend at your elbows, breathe on down through your heart, land your hands to frame your front foot, let your left knee come to the mat. So you can untangle from the strap. Actually, let's leave that on. We'll transition to a pose I was going to do in the next sequence, but I think it will work well here. Okay, if you have a block, go ahead and grab that. Bring it to the big toe edge of your right foot. Sink your hips forward, then reach your right arm all the way back and around. You may hook onto your foot here, or you've got your strap. You've got your strap, so you could give a lot of slack or a little bit of slack, right? Or you can bind here for twisted monkey. So your hips land forward, your heart lifts toward the sky. Some like to turn to the outer edge of the front foot, a little twisted monkey action. But there's a lift of your heart happening regardless of variation for 3, 2, and 1. Good. Release your back foot. Tuck your toes under. You can slide the strap now off of your left leg. Keep it handy for the second side. Frame your front foot. Here's where Vinyasa comes in. Some like to take a breath in child's pose here. Some like to go right to down dog. Some might be building in chaturanga with knees hovering and up dog. I'll meet you back at down dog. So Vinyasa or variation of your choice for 3 breaths. And lift your gaze forward. This time you offer your left foot through. You can help with your hands. There's so many ways you can get there. It doesn't have to be one big step, right? Right knee comes down. So if you were working with a strap, this time it comes all the way up. So you need a big enough lasso that it can come above your right knee. You'll be able to see it a little bit better on this side in the video. And then the tail of your strap comes up and over your left shoulder. Okay, so we've got this low lunge going on. And then you can hover your back knee and we reach the fingertips high to the sky, Ashta Chandrasana. Let's begin with those psoas drops. So it's a high lunge. We're keeping the underside of the back knee active, but drop or lower the hips without bending the knee, right? So this stays active. Lower, lower, lower. And then rise up towards something a little more neutral. Find your strap. Remember, without the strap, you could try Shepana Mudra again, right? Bend at your elbows. If working with the strap, you can stack up your fists. Elbows stay drawing in towards center as you lower your hips. You're walking back on the tail of the strap. Perhaps lift your heart Perhaps lift your gaze, lower your hips. 3, 2, and 1. So all variations, extend at your elbows now. Hips back towards something more neutral. Breathe down through your heart. Frame your foot, land your back knee down. Okay. If you've got a block, take it to the big toe edge of your left foot. Bend into your right knee. Left fingertips reach all the way around to the back. So maybe you bind here. Maybe you find the tail of your strap, right? And maybe you spin over to the little toe edge of your left foot. Regardless of variation, the heart is finding a lift. The heart is finding a lift upward toward the sky. Tune in with your breath. And then all the way back toward the sole of your left foot. Release your right foot or the strap behind. Now go ahead and remove the strap from your right leg. Set it off to the side. If you'd like, move through Vinyasa here. If you'd prefer, pass through Child's Pose. If you prefer, it's a direct path back to Down Dog. 3 breaths, your variation. And then bring your gaze forward. It's a walk, a lunge, or a hop on up. Halfway lift. Exhale to deepen your fold. And then perhaps with wide wings, all expressions coming on up. Uttita Tadasana. Breathe your hands together to your heart. Samastitihi. Remember, this is check-in point. I love that Shepana mudra. It's so empowering. It really like lets us cut through the cloudiness, the fogs, if you want to reconnect with that at heart center. Also helps to kind of expel negative energy and invite in a flow of a new, more positive energy into our experience. Reconnecting with intention. And then with your inhale, you can release whatever gesture you find yourself in. Take your arms out wide and high at the top of that reach, this time with arms extended. It's a standing back bend. Lead with your heart. So it's a lift of your heart versus a jutting of the hips forward, right? So think keeping legs extended, tops of your thighs can get really long, glutes and hamstrings get really active. Reach your fingertips back behind you, lift your heart. Perhaps allow the weight of your head to fall. Lift all the way back towards center. Breathe on down through midline, Uttanasana. Halfway lift with your next inhale. Exhale, it's Vinyasa here perhaps. Otherwise, you know you have the option of right to down dog, right? You have the option of right to child's pose for a breath. Meet you back at down dog. And then lift your gaze forward, step your right foot all the way up through. Stay on the tippy toes of your left foot behind. So it's same foundation as our first sequence, right? At Crescent Warrior Ashtachandrasana foundation. Reach your fingertips high. Then on your exhale, this is a little bit of a twisty one. Reach your left fingertips forward, right fingertips back. We'll take this twist and add in a little something new. So right fingertips reach back towards your upper thigh. Left fingertips reach high. Your gaze can follow. You're going to likely feel the right side of your lower back working really hard and contracting, like QL area, offering this kind of twisted extension. Gaze follows your left fingertips. And then inhale all the way back to your twist. Go ahead and cartwheel your arms down. Land your left knee. If you've got a block, go ahead and find it. Walk up so that your ribs stack above your pelvis. We're in a low kneel now with the left knee below the left hip. You can stay right here. If you'd like, reach your right fingertips high and begin to lean back. So it's kind of like a half Ustrasana. Toes can be tucked under behind you or untucked. Depends where you feel most steady. If you prefer, you might start to walk the block back, or some might even be reaching left hand toward left ankle or left big toe, right? In this Ardha Ustrasana variation.
Gaze can come all the way back toward right fingertips, perhaps. 3, 2, 1. Let's breathe right hand through the heart. Lift back towards something like a neutral spine. Set your block up to the top edge of the mat. Frame your right foot so vinyasa is an option. Direct path to down dog is an option. Child's pose is an option. Meet up with us in a few breaths. And then lift your gaze forward. It's left foot that leads this time. Stay on the right tippy toes, really active in the underside of your right knee, and then rise on up. Ashtachandrasana. Take your twist. It's right fingertips that lead this time, left fingertips that reach back. Really active in the underside of your right knee. Reach your left hand to right upper thigh. Right fingertips reach high. Sink your hips low. Lift your heart and your gaze. Again, the left side low back is going to be working hard. It's in contraction. Top of your right hip is getting really long. It's an extension there. Come on back towards your twist. Cartwheel your arms all the way around. Land down to frame your front foot. Let your right knee rest to the earth. Find your block. Come on up towards something more neutral. Perhaps you stay rested on the block here. Left fingertips reach high and you find a lift, a little expansion from the heart and the collarbones. You can stay right here. Others may like to begin walking the block back. Remember, you have the option to perhaps take your right hand toward right ankle and your toes can be untucked or tucked. Okay, so any of those are options. Left fingertips reach high, a little Ustrasana variation. Float your gaze, expand from your heart, and then go ahead and float all the way forward. Float all the way forward. Set your block up. Tuck your toes under, hover your back knee, and it's a move through vinyasa. Pass through up dog if you'd like, or it's right back to downward facing dog. And then all expressions, land your knees to the earth. Land your knees to the earth. Okay. Go ahead and grab your blocks if you'd like for steadiness. We will not be taking the more traditional. I keep it. This practice space has a carpet, and so my mat slides around a little bit. That's why I kind of keep jumping off and adjusting my mat. Okay, so we won't be doing a traditional practice of Ustrasana today. But if you'd like to have your blocks for steadiness, right? If this doesn't feel like a super steady place for you to land, then go ahead and grab those. You might also cushion your knees with a blanket. That's a great addition. Remember, toes can be tucked under or untucked. You work with what fits best for you. So steady here on the blocks could be where it's at for you today. Maybe you start to roll your shoulders back and find a little lift of your heart. For those that would like, I'd like to invite a few different variations for upper body. The first is pull hands to heart center. Notice if the whole torso wants to lean back, we want to keep hips above the knees if possible. So heart begins to lift and you're reaching through the crown of your head. So neck spine is really long and without straining for the neck muscles. So here, if you'd like, you might extend your arms long. Stepana mudra is an option. You want to work with that, dispelling the negative, inviting in something more positive and joyful, perhaps a bend at your elbows. Remember, the heart lifts and expands if the torso is falling back. 3, 2, 1. If bent at the elbows, extend. All variations lift up toward neutral, ribs above pelvis. Breathe your hands toward your heart. Take a seat towards your heels. If you've got your blocks nearby, that could mean setting up onto a block or two. We'll pause here at neutral. I know you really want to counter, but we're not quite done with our extensions yet. So if you can, hold tight. Take a few breaths at neutral spine. We're almost there. And then go ahead and slide your feet around to the front. I know, I'm sure your whole backside body is feeling it, but I promise there's a method to my madness. We're preparing here for an Urdhva Dhanurasana, an upward facing bow or wheel pose. So when you swing your feet around, go ahead and come all the way to the earth. And I know you really want to hug your knees to your heart, but if you can, just resist for a moment longer. Okay, lots of variations today. This should be interesting to speak through. Um, you do not have to go into the picture of wheel that you have in your mind, right, as the perfect or the quintessential wheel posture. And this is why we're working with extensions or back bends with this intention. The only thing that yoga asks us to do is to choose the option that is best for our body on any given day. So I'm going to give lots of variations. You will have space to move into it 3 times in the expression that feels best for you today. So option A, and we're going to work with a hug toward midline, not just with the elbows, but also with the thighs. However, for some folks, having toes turned out works best in their form. I am one of those people. So you do not necessarily have to have the toes square toward the top edge of your mat. Find the posture that feels best. Option A is to come back onto the palms of your hands, squeeze your elbows in, and work with this. We've seen this shape before. Elbow squeeze to midline, knees squeeze to midline, and we roll the hips up and off the earth. So it's a revisit of Setu Bandhasana. Maybe there's space to lift a little higher after all the work we've done. That's option A. Option B is to lift and come up toward the crown of your head and hang out here. And then come down. Having a top bun is not going to work for this posture. If you've got one going on, you might want to remove it. Okay. So option C would be once you lift toward the crown of your head to work to extend your elbows with an option to walk your feet in toward your hands, hands toward your feet. I'm coming on down. That's hard to talk through. Or for some folks, you might work to extend one leg to the sky and then the other. So if you've already found yourself up in your first expression, take an exhale and lower everything down. And again, I know the knee-jerk reaction after those big back bends is to hug the knees right into the heart. However, I urge you to leave the soles of your feet flat to the mat. Allow your spine to find neutral. So we're taking a breath between rounds. Reset. You can assess how that felt in your form. Not looking for perfection, simply looking for what works best for you. So if there was anything that didn't feel quite right, or if you felt like you could increase upon the edge in some way, choose your variation. Let's head to round 2. So you know all the options, right? Elbows squeeze in toward midline, knees squeeze in toward midline. Perhaps it's a little bitty lift with your hips. Perhaps it's up to the crown of your head. Perhaps it's an extension of your elbows all the way up toward wheel. When you get to whichever variation you choose, see if you can take 3 fluid breaths. This is really the indicator, especially with extensions. The breath should move evenly and fluidly. If that's not an option, take it down a notch. And then everyone exhale, lower down. Find a neutral spine without hugging your knees in. Take a breath. And another breath. And then last option, we're moving into the 3rd round. And then we get to do all the yummy countering and neutralizing shapes. So set yourself up, final round. Maybe your final round is visualizing it. That's a great option too. So soles of your feet down into the earth. Palms come to either side of your ears, elbows squeeze in, knees squeeze in, and then start to hover your hips, variation of your choice, right? A bridge to the crown of the head or elbows extend, perhaps to the tips of your toes. One more breath. Good. And then everyone lower all the way down to the earth. Land your feet out wide, about mats width apart. Touch your knees together and midline. So feet are wide. I'll show it this way. Feet are wide, knees touch in toward midline. Constructive rest. Let your arms come down alongside your ribs. Take a few nice long breaths, maybe a sigh. And then leave your feet as they are. You can widen out your knees, let them rock from side to side for a spinal twist. The next time your knee is drawn down towards your right, you can leave your knees there and staggered, or perhaps take your right foot to outer left thigh, getting into the outer line of the left hip. This time, maybe arms come out wide like a T or something more like cactus shape. Soften your right foot to the floor if it's not already there. Lift both of your knees through center and take them on down towards your left side. So again, they can stay staggered, or perhaps you want to take your left foot to outer right thigh above your knee. Arms can come out wide, gaze can be to the sky or over your right fingertips. Go ahead and release your left foot back to the earth if it's not already there. Lift both knees to center. Feet stay wide. Touch your knees onto one another. Once again, constructive rest. And rock your pelvis. So pubic bone rocks up towards your heart, towards your ribs, and then down. So it's like a little bitty flexion extension. Main focus on the tucking of your tailbone or the lifting of your pubic bone, right? Allow as it rests back toward extension, let that be softer. We've done a lot of that today. So rock up with a little more gusto, and then a rock back down that's softer. A few more rounds, rock up and back. And then now, the moment you've all been waiting for, hug your knees up and into your heart. You can actually round your back, roll head, neck, and shoulders up towards your knees. Release your head down to the earth. Take some rolls on your low back in one direction, in the other. If it's all right for you, this is a good spot to take a few rolls, little cannonball rolls up and down the length of your spine. Otherwise, roll down to one side. Press yourself up, and then everyone at a seat, take your legs out long. Take your legs out long. Draw your toes back. We'll start with a more active Paschimottanasana, right? Press into the earth at either hip so the spine comes up nice and tall. Inhale your fingertips high, and on your exhale, think periscoping long from the base of your spine up through to the crown of your head. Extend over your legs. You can land to blocks, to shins, soles of your feet, perhaps a block beyond the soles of your feet. Take a breath, think length. And then exhale as you fold, go ahead and release the effort. Now it's more yin light. You can let your back round. Perhaps you want to bring in your blocks. You can rest your head onto a block or two here. So it's more of a yin-like expression. You let your belly be soft. Rise all the way back, slowly toward a nice tall seat. You can crisscross your ankles. Come in toward a Sukhasana. Take your right arm over your left, hug back towards your shoulder blades, and then draw your chin toward your chest and really round your back. So we're hugging and then also kind of folding in toward ourselves. So the backside body gets long. On your inhale, rise up. Take your arms out wide and bring your left hand across to your right upper thigh. Spin your gaze toward your right or maybe even back over your right shoulder. Hover your fingertips, go ahead and come back towards center. This time it's left arm over right. Reach back towards your shoulder blades. Round into yourself, fold into yourself, chin towards your chest. Neck spine's long. Inhale to rise, lengthen torso, lengthen your spine. Take your wingspan out wide. And this time around, it's right hand all the way on over to the left upper thigh, just above your knee. You can spin your gaze towards your left or even back over your left shoulder. And then go ahead and hover your fingertips all the way back to center. Draw your palms into your heart for one more round. Shaipanat Mudra. Point your index fingers. You can crisscross your thumbs. Draw your hands into your heart. Shaipanat is a beautiful gesture that symbolizes the letting go of that which doesn't serve us. And really, it's our imperfections that most foster unity amongst us. It reminds us that we're all in this together. There is no such thing as perfect. So it might serve us to remember this when we get really hung up on feeling like we're not doing something, anything by the book or the way that we envision it in our mind. Remember to tune into a feeling rather than any form of aesthetic. Try to move away from comparison because it is that imperfection that unites us all as humans. As you're ready, you can go ahead and release that gesture. And if your preference for integration from the practice is to stay in a meditation seat, I welcome you to stay here. You might want to elevate your hips. I will stay right up here at a tall seat. For those that prefer to take on Shavasana, I welcome you to rest all the way down to the earth. Perhaps you'd like to find some support underneath your knees for today's Shavasana, just to create a little bit more space for the low back. Settle all the way down to the mat for several minutes. Allow your form to integrate. Rest your arms alongside your ribs for those coming to the earth. For those in meditation, you're welcome to come into any gesture that you may like. And track the movement of your breath as you settle. We move out of the physical form back into focus on the more subtle layers. With your mind, watch your breath, with your inner gaze. And then see if you can access that part of your mind that watches the mind. And then see if you can allow yourself to simply be in this experience as silent witness without attachment to watching, without attachment to observing. Even if just for one breath, allow yourself to simply be.
regardless of landing point that you arrived at, whether seated or in Shavasana. You can start to lengthen out either end of your breath now. And stay in stillness with a very gentle and forgiving observation of self. Watch your breath as each end lengthens just slightly. And then notice how that lengthening of your breath creates a very gentle chain reaction or response in your form, little shifts, subtle movements. Start to follow that by making your own active movements that are gentle, like a trace of your fingertips, or if down on the ground, you can rock your head from side to side and reach your arms up and back overhead. Or if you're in a meditation seat, you might find some gentle rolls in the length of your spine, or neck rolls, shoulder rolls. Those on the earth, take a roll to your favorite side and find a few breaths there. And then everyone go ahead and come on up toward a last seat where we can seal the practice together for the day. If you enjoyed working with Shayapana Mudra, you might want to end there today. If you prefer Anjali, hands at prayer, over your heart, or any other gesture that works better or best for you. You can allow your head to rest low in a silent gesture of gratitude. Thank yourself so much for simply making it through the year behind you, letting go of any attachment to things you may feel you did not accomplish, offering yourself grace and love in this space of imperfection that connects us all in our humanity. I thank you so much for joining today, for exploring the perfection of imperfection that we all experience. Please enjoy the rest of your day ahead, and I look forward to seeing you again for practice soon. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. See you again soon. Ciao, ciao.